Starring Daylight, a first-rate thriller. The #1 action movie of the year. My heart never stopped pounding. Go on an adventure! Sylvester Stallone. Daylight, rated PG-13. Daylight breaks tomorrow.
Hey, everybody! We are back with this latest episode of Unfinished Business. Deep Dive! I am your host, Jeff Gallishaw, at Unfinished B2, which, of course, you can read. But, as always, with me is Andre Joseph of at AJ Epics Productions.
I ain't hear no bell.
Again, another hint as to what or who we're talking about. We're talking about the 1996 action thriller Daylight, starring the star of the recently released documentary, Sly. That's right, Sylvester Stallone, who here plays Kit Latura, who is a chauffeur. Who used to be the head of the emergency, the state emergency league or whatever it's called.
He was EMT, technically.
Yeah, he was the state's leading EMT who gets stuck in a tunnel when a bunch of punk rock jewel thieves make a speedy getaway down the tunnel and then somehow hit some questionable chemicals, which seals off the tunnel from the front and the back, and everybody is trapped in there, and Sylvester Stallone is the only one brave enough to, because he knows the schematics of the tunnel, to go in and try to rescue them and get them out, while, I guess, at every turn, more and more problems happen. This film not only stars Sylvester Stallone, but a young up-and-comer named Viggo Mortensen has Sylvester Stallone's late son, Sage Stallone, has, for all you Boy Meets World fans, Angela Trina McGee Davis, Danielle Harris on the big screen again. Keep in mind, this is 1996, so she's still a teenager. We have Claire. This was the biggest shock for me in casting. You have Colin Fox and Claire Bloom, two classic British actors in this movie. I guess this is where Marvel's like, see, we can use classically trained actors in blockbusters. You have Vanessa Bell Calloway with a ridiculous West Indian Caribbean. You have Stan Shaw, Rocky Reunion, as the security guard working in there. More to come on that role. We have Amy Brenneman as the female lead. Let's see, who else? J.O. Sanders.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite actresses, Karen Young, as his younger second wife. Yeah, this
Oh, you forgot about Dan Hedaya.
Oh, Dan Hedaya as the guy who's afraid to go in the tunnel. That's Stallone's job. This movie, first of all, it looks like New York, but this whole film was filmed in Rome. And the beauty of it, you can't tell.
No, you can't.
This film, I will tell you how I came upon this film. I remember all the ads for this movie. And I was like, this seems interesting. But I didn't end up seeing it in its first run. I saw it in when New York still had $2 theaters. And I saw it one time there, and I loved it so much that I saw it twice more at the $2 theater. And I'm not afraid to say, this is one of my favorite Sylvester Stallone action movies outside of his franchise movies. Because, you know, he does what is needed. And at first, I mean, he's, for a chauffeur, he still has all these damn muscles. You know, he looks more like a bodyguard. And I feel like he showed a lot of depth. And I mean, he got paid $17.5 million for this movie. And this is what I will say was one of the last really big action blockbusters that I felt from the old school action stars. Even though he's not taking on terrorists, it's more of a disaster movie where he's the obvious hero. And it works so well because it's just his character goes through so much, and it shows like even towards the end, he's just tired, instead of always having this endless energy. And I really admired this film, and I'll admit, I was suckered, even though I knew he was lying, when he said, "Oh, after this, I'm not doing any more action movies," And I was like, you know what? If this is his last hurrah, you know what? You went out on a good one, sir. Andre, how did you come upon Daylight?
Same as you, through all the advertisements that they had at the time. And I used to collect Science-Gate magazine, so it was one of those movies that they were highlighting as one of the big holiday releases that year, and they showed the picture of him in the tunnel, trying to get out. And I was and still am a big Sylvester Stallone fan, and I hadn't really seen a lot of his movies in the theater at that time. This was probably the first one that I saw, because I had just started to watch the Rocky and the Rambo movies on video. I'd only seen them like sparingly on cable when I was younger. But yeah, this one in particular was sort of the end of the era for Sly, because at that time he was still one of the highest paid actors in the world. And this movie definitely did better business overseas than it did in the US. And it was, like you said, the first movie he did where he wasn't fighting in a ring, he wasn't blowing up terrorists with big machine guns or taking his shirt off and flexing his muscles. Like, no, this is like a real disaster movie. And this was in the same period as Twister and Volcano and Dante's Peak, and even to some degree Independence Day. So, and big also special effects movie for him. So it was definitely something where it was the first time, I think, in a long time I saw a movie where I actually thought he was going to die, because of the fact that the situation got so grave towards the end, and the fact that he was willing to spoiler alert, to kind of let some of the other survivors try to escape on their own while he and Amy Brutterman try to blast their way out. Apparently, when it was originally written, yeah, he was supposed to die at the end. And that was one of the reasons why Rob Cohen originally wanted Nicolas Cage to play the Kit role and thought he would be perfect for that. And yeah, he definitely, you would have believed there's no way this guy's going to survive, because he was just a character actor, which was precisely the problem that Universal felt, because he hadn't done The Rock yet. He had just won his Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas, but they didn't see him as a full-on blockbuster leading man. They wanted the big guns, and Sly had a big contract with Universal, and he took it on because he thought, okay, if Cliffhanger allowed me to deal with my fear of heights, this movie can help me deal with claustrophobia in closed spaces. So that's the reason why he made this movie. And I've actually have some personal connections with this, because for one, I actually ran into J.O. Sanders on the street one time on 42nd Street in Manhattan. Although I didn't go up to him. He was on his phone. This was after Along Came a Spider came out. So I guess he was like maybe going to a play or something. And I actually did some business with Renly Santiago, who plays one of the criminals in this movie. I'm not going to say what that business is. I'll just say it was, professional. And when I worked with him, I asked about that experience working on Daylight and working with Stallone. And, he had positive thoughts about it. And he said Sly was a team player. He was one guy that, despite what you always hear about his ego and, basically trying to make himself look good, he's always about the team spirit, getting the movie together and trying to make the best story possible. So obviously his experience around him was good versus maybe some others that we've heard publicly over the years. And I think for the time, because I've watched it a few times since then, when I saw it with my dad in the theater when it first came out, I think the effects still hold up for 1996. It's got some really amazing stunt work, especially the fact that, like you said, it was shot in Rome for the most part. You don't even really believe it. I'll admit, when I go down the Midtown Tunnel, I do think about that movie and always worrying some shit's going to go down. I'm going to be stuck. Not even there, but also the Battery Tunnel, too, when I have to go and meet up with you in the city. And also the ensemble cast that they had, which was a lot of really good character actors. And I forgot Daniel Harris was in this. I didn't know Sage was in it until it was pointed out years later. Trina McGee Davis, I did remember from Boy Meets World. I was actually like kind of taken aback when I saw her in this movie. And yeah, Viggo Mortensen, it was kind of weird because his career was starting to go on the up and up at that time. He had done The Indian Runner. He was in Boiling Point with Wesley Snipes. He had done a couple of big films, but you could kind of look at him and say, this guy's got something. He's going to be a leading man one day. And then Lord of the Rings came along, and that was proven to be true. And yeah, this Rob Cohen goes on to do the Fast and the Furious and then gets Me Too'd. So that was a little odd. But no, he had a good track record at the time with the Bruce Lee story and with Dragonheart. So he definitely had experience in doing big effects heavy movies. So yeah, you know, I think for that time, I know Sly said it was a good premise that didn't work, but I think it was a good film that, you know, people just getting tired of Sly at that point. They were moving on to Will Smith. They were moving on to the new generation of big name actors at that point. And I think that's what prompted him to do Copland after this, to show, oh yeah, I can be serious again. And it had a double-edged sword effect.
Yeah, I still love this movie. Like you said, character actors, it feels like a very New York film, and it overdoes it at times with, like, what was it? The password to get into the computer is Knish. It's like, come on, really? We get it. You know, again, even though he doesn't die first, why the black man gotta be one of the first people who dies in this movie?
And it's the overzealous thug.
Yeah, and I'm like, and again, I felt like the Caribbean accent was also to represent New York, and Amy Brenneman being this wannabe playwright whose affair with a married man has now gone into shambles. But what I really liked was kind of the ending, where it seemed like the tunnel was the enemy for Sly in lieu of terrorists, because then at the end when he's like, I can't take your soul, but I'm gonna take your heart. And the explosive end, and then it looks like it's grabbing him back when everything is shooting up. And Amy Brown, like as you were saying, was a double-edged sword. I think the ending is a double-edged sword, because I think I would have remembered it more if he had died. You know, because it would have been so shocking after all he did, but he did the job he was supposed to do as an EMT. If you have to give up your own life to save others, and that sacrifice, you know. And
yeah, go ahead.
No, but I'm like, with the happy ending, that's the more audience-friendly ending. But I just feel like if he died at the end, it would have been just more memorable film, and kind of like a metaphor, since this was supposedly the last action film. Like, this is the end. I'm done. So now go ahead with your point.
No, I was going to say that's the one issue I do have with this movie is the fact that, and I don't think it's necessarily, I can't say if it's all Sly, but they do try to make him look like he's a messiah figure at times, which I just think takes away from the tension that you would have at the end. Like going back and rewatching it, you know, he's mugging for the camera in the beginning when we first see him, like he's driving in the cab, or when he's like, after the explosion and he goes to Dan Hedaya to try to volunteer his way to go and save the people, you know, they film him in a way where it's like he comes out through the shadow like he's going to be the big mighty hero. And I kept picturing if Nicolas Cage was doing this, it would have been more realistic, because he could have just been an ordinary guy. And to see him crack down the way he would really give me the sense that, yeah, this guy's not going to survive. But with Sly, even when he is broken down at the end and it looks like he has no energy left to keep going, you still know, well, you've watched every Rocky movie. You've seen Rambo, how many times he gets tortured and stabbed up and cut up. This guy's going to find some way out of this because it's Sylvester Stallone. And, you know, at that time, unless you were Arnold with the Terminator, you just don't kill off the action hero who's got his face plastered on the posters and selling Planet Hollywood food. That ain't happening. Also, too, another peeve I have, besides Vanessa Bell Calloway's accent and maybe some of Stan Shaw's overacting, was Viggo Mortensen's death scene. So, okay, you knew this was coming. You knew this was going to be the idiot that thinks he's smarter than everybody else. He's going to find a way out of that one part of the tunnel. But watching it again and seeing when the whole thing starts to collapse on him, that's like the worst effect in the whole movie. Is when he lands on the ground, he's chewing his gum, he's looking up, then the thing smacks him down like the road, like White Coyote, and I'm just like, this just takes away from the seriousness of the situation. And I don't even think he's that unlikable, to be honest.
Well, they make him unlikable because he lies and says that his phone, everybody's phone isn't working, but his actually is. And he's using this more as trying to be like, to push his brand and that he can get everybody out and that he's this expert instead of listening to the EMT. And it provides that stupid scene for the black thug to almost kill Sage Stallone, but thanks to the fire that comes down on Mortensen, it ends up killing the black guy, who then, after you show him almost wanting to kill somebody, has this classic line, tell my father that I tried to save everybody. He won't believe you, though. And then I'm just thinking, and then he plays at least a better role in Volcano, another disaster movie, where he's a little more honorable, or just more honorable. And it's a shame because he's a good actor, but it's like these are the only two movies I remember him in. And with this movie, I'm trying to think of enough. Oh, when they were like, I don't know why this sticks in my mind. The fight the power where there's no sound and he's trying to tell them to cut the power. And I don't know, the hand movements, what's his name? Like, I'm thinking he should have just did slash and then the power, like the Black Power fist, and that would have made more sense. But, yeah, again, it's a little pet peeve that always bothers me when watching the movie.
Or the part with the rats.
Oh, I love that scene. Poor Karen Young's performance. Because she's like, they've been through all this. All the girls are still screaming. Even the guys are screaming. And she's just like, whatever. I'm just going to sit here. And I'm like, that is the most real reaction since Charles S. Dutton in Mimic, who, like, is supposed to be the heroic guy, but runs faster than everybody else out of the way when the monsters are coming. So I'm just like, that's just like one of the many pleasures of this movie. This is one of those movies. We'll talk about the Sly documentary eventually, but this is like one of those movies I wish would have at least been mentioned or showed in the documentary of Sly, because again, this was the one where he said, I'm retiring from action movies. So then he could have at least explained why he decided to change his mind after going from this to Copland and then realizing, oh, let me go back, you know. And another reason why I like this is, it's better than Lockup, even though I like Lockup. But it's also one of these movies where Sylvester Stallone, even though apparently he put up $28 million for this movie to be financed, I guess it was like, if I'm willing to invest, we can get others to invest in it. But it's also another one of those films I like where Sylvester Stallone really doesn't have, he didn't write the script, he didn't direct it, he didn't produce it, you know. He's here supposedly strictly as an actor, leading man. But, and, you know, I sometimes feel like you might not get the best work out of him if he's not in control, but at least it shows he's trying, you know. He's there as an actor more. But like you said, of course, he's set up as a messiah, so I'm sure he liked that part of it. You know, like, hey, why not? He's
got to have his vanity shots.
Exactly. He gets to work with his son again, the first time since Rocky 5. So, you know, it's like it's almost like a family affair, you know. Though, you know, I know obviously he could play his son in this, but you know, when they're scenes together, it's like, you know, they're related. They look too much like each other.
Well, when he's trying to save him in the tunnel before the whole thing collapses, you can tell.
Yeah, because I'm just like, they look too much alike. I mean, hey, it's not like Sage got a starring role in this. It's like, it's more of a small supporting, but still, it's not like it works. And I just like, I don't know, something about this film. It's like something of a lost era. I just really like this film, and I like this Stallone a lot, you know, even though, you know, he was demanding to stay in a hotel that was $5,000 a night. But I'm just like, hey, if you can do it, why not? You're a star. it just reminds me of like that story they always say, or that Kevin Smith told about Bruce Willis working on Die Hard 4, where the studio was trying to ask him questions or like send out some kind of like thing that they wanted to change. And he's like, okay. Who else you got to star in this film? Who starred in the previous Die Hard movies? Exactly, me. So it's like, yeah. So it's like Daylight, even though, you know, his character is supposed to be, you know, so compassionate for everybody. And I believe him as an actor being a team player. In the end, it's still like, who else is starring in this movie? So you want me to leave, you know, in the middle of production, or you want to finish this film? Keep me happy, you know? And it might sound like a dick move, but, you know, it was back when we still had movie stars or icons when it comes to Stallone, you know, still working. And that's why, you know, watching movies after this, it's like, yeah, I liked the newer Rambo movies, you know, and I even liked, I liked the first Expendables. But, you know, after that, it just started feeling like he's wasted or he's wasting himself in some of these films and performances. I understand you want to keep working, but it's like, let's do some quality, man. Let's do some more Daylight, some more Demolition Man, some more Lockups. Like
there was just something about that period when you saw the movie poster and it'd be like Stallone, Daylight, or Schwarzenegger, Eraser, that you didn't know exactly what the premise was, but the fact that they're on the poster, their name is in big letters, you wanted to see that because you knew what you were going to get most of the time. And considering all the other stuff that he was doing at that time, it's definitely, I think, better than The Specialist, better than Assassins, and totally better than Judge Dredd, because Judge Dredd, I think, is a lot more of a Hollywood movie than Daylight was. Daylight at least took some risks and challenges than, you know, Judge Dredd, where he just had to go without the helmet, you know, and completely screw up that character.
Well, see, Daylight, the punk rock, you know, the punk rockers stealing the jewel. That's the only real, like, totally Hollywood moment in this movie where it's just like, what? This is the only way you can figure for this to happen? And, you know, it's written by the same person who wrote, Leslie Boehm, who wrote Dante's Peak. So it's not like, you know, you know who you're getting, or at least if you pay attention to that sort of thing, you know who you're getting in the script writing process. But I'm like, I still think this movie is a solid disaster action movie that I would say, give it a chance. It's not Shakespeare, but if you're into these types of film and if you're into Stallone, give this, you know, a chance, because there is a lot of action, but, you know, he works in the drama scenes too. You know, once he gets into that tunnel, that's when the film really starts working.
Yeah.
You know, the thing where he's like you said, he's talking to Dan Hedaya and asking him all these questions, trying to kind of be more the alpha dog, is like, okay, calm down, Stallone. You know, and you know, the only distracting thing, and this is just something if you notice it, is that Stallone's character is a cab driver with like a $5,000 watch.
Yeah, he has sponsorships.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, he wears this watch throughout the movie, and it's just like, come on, man! You couldn't just like have a Casio to make your character. Come on. But like I said, even though we're nitpicking, this is a decent film to watch. It would have been better with a Nicolas Cage, because they probably would have kept the original ending, and this would have been like one of Nicolas Cage's first action adventure film, so maybe it would have been a little bit more popular and well remembered.
Yeah,
because it would have been like, whoa, Nicolas Cage is stepping up the game, you know. But unfortunately, it was The Rock which brought him into that territory and brung the cliches. Plus, I just wonder what Nicolas Cage isms would he have brung to this role. You know, like what weird little tick is he going to use to like help power his performance through this?
I try to picture him when he's putting the C4s into the cement.
The only thing I can imagine is when he first comes down after being in the tunnel with the fan and he can't hear anything. I felt like he would have overplayed the being deaf part. You know, and I'm just like, also, I'm not trying to be an insult. What's his hairdo going to be in this if he was in Daylight? Would this be long-haired Nicolas Cage? Would this be blonde, like kind of highlighted Nicolas Cage?
Probably bringing out the dead Nicolas Cage.
Okay, well, hopefully not with all the dark circles.
Maybe he would have the dark circles. He's been out of a job for a long time.
He's like, I gotta drive a cab. I'm Travis Bickle as the action hero. But yeah, definitely check this out. I'm gonna even make a bold statement. If this was on 4K Blu-ray, totally buy it.
I think it is.
Oh, then I gotta go get this. It'd be nice if Stallone commented on it, if it is on there. No offense to Rob Cohen, I just don't want to just hear you talk about the film. Or even if you could get Viggo Mortensen in to talk about it. So he could tell us about, like, his 15 minutes in the movie. Or him talking about, yes, I was working on this in Portrait of a Lady at the same time. Yes, I do love that. It's the only time where, if, let's say, Carrie Elways played his role, I would have cheered for the death. That would have been like, yes, please, take him out. Come on. Hello. Throw a rock at him or something. That trips him up. Because I was like, I know he's going to be a dick, but did you have to take him out so early? It's like, it was like just soon as Stallone gets there. First 10 minutes, like, well, let's kill the other guy now.
By the way, Rob Cohen has 2 cameos in this movie. Did you know that?
Yes, 2. Is he one of the businessmen at Viggo Mortensen's meeting in the beginning?
He's the businessman at the meeting, but he's also the ex-boyfriend of Emmy Brennerman on the phone who leaves the message. Yeah.
And
they could be the same character. Who knows?
Why not? Hey, this is a movie. I'm just like, yes, Rob Cohen's like, hey, why would I give a voiceover actor a check? I can do it myself. And I'm in a business meeting. No, he couldn't have been, because how did he go from the meeting to then being at his kid's birthday party?
He's got money. He probably has time.
Then since the movie's not going to explain, is this over the span of how many hours is all this happening? Because Amy Brenneman's card looked pretty packed, so it would have taken a few hours.
Yeah, this had to be like 36 hours, I think.
Oh, man. I'm just like, look, this movie, obviously don't think too hard about it.
No.
And also, since you were talking about special effects, the crumbling from the outside, that's all model work, and which you rarely have ever see anymore. Another reason to, like, enjoy this film. All these old practical effects they don't use now, that still is more believable than CGI.
Yeah.
But yet they still want to keep using CGI and AI all the time. And
also, if you're a Donna Summer fan, she does the end theme song to this movie, which I didn't know for a long time.
Neither did I. I was just like, really? Like, out of all the people, maybe Stallone had a request. He was like, hey, I liked her in the 70s and 80s. Let's use her again.
Maybe he liked The Deep and it was like, I like that theme song. Can we get that same singer?
And did you know there's a novelization of this movie written by Max Allan Collins?
Wrote all the Dick Tracy novelizations after the Warren Beatty movie.
And you know what? If I ever see this, I wouldn't mind reading it. There's more. It's more in depth about Stallone's character.
Yeah, a lot of backstories we didn't know about Amy Brennerman and the husband.
And this is not to insult Amy Brennerman because she's a fine actress, but she's the damsel. She doesn't have much to do. I mean, she's, other than being Sly Stallone's like kind of sidekick, they don't really give her character much to do. And
I don't know what Hollywood was seeing in her at that time, because she had done Fear, she was in Heat with Robert De Niro playing the girlfriend of his, and that. I mean, she's pretty, but I'm just like, I don't know. She still strikes me as a TV actor more than a movie actor.
I mean, I enjoy her performance. I mean, there's only 2 scenes they give her to stand out. when Stallone drags her, and she's like, "Don't leave me, Roger." I remember that scene. And when she's the only one willing to take the live wire with her sneakers before Stallone comes down, those two scenes, and then when her and Trina McGee Davis are trying to get Renly, trying to get him off the bus, but he's too scared to get off, and she's like trying to see, we're pretty girls. And I hate to say it, that was the first time I realized Trina McGee Davis' character was a girl. Because before then, you only really see her in the background, and she's got this big ass bun. So I'm just like, hey, guys are wearing their hair long. That could be a dude.
Yeah, could that be Miguel Nunez Jr.?
Exactly. So, then I realized, oh, that's true. Is that Angela from Boy Meets World?
Oh, another weird thing about this movie. So they try to force a possible romance with Sage Stallone and Danielle Harris. I know they're kind of close in age, but it didn't work. I didn't really buy it. And plus, we were talking the other day about this movie and saying, like, what did Sage Stallone's character do to go to prison? Because he doesn't seem like, a hardened criminal. Like, did he pickpocket somebody in Manhattan?
I was like, nah, he had to be like a con man or was running a con and got caught, because there's no way he's doing hard labor for fighting or like beating up somebody. No assault.
Like, this is what happened to Rocky's kid if Rocky hadn't intervened in Rocky V and he started hanging out with Kevin Conley and smoking cigarettes and getting an earring.
Exactly. He's grown up doing hard time in a juvenile facility. But that was the other thing. As like with all teen movies, these kids do not look the right age.
They don't.
They all look like too old. Maybe Trina McGee Davis, she can get away with being a minor in this movie, even though she was probably older than everybody. But it was just like, what? All these kids look like they should be going to the pen, not a juvenile facility. And so I'm just like,
especially the brother. The brother should be going to general population.
Especially with his apparently his survival tendencies. Like, you left me, I must murder you. It's like, wait, what? It's like, guys, we're already in a bad situation, and you're sitting here thinking of homicide. Jeez, what happens if you would have got to the rat part of the movie? It's like, oh yeah, again, just thought about. You killed two of the black characters.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Exactly. Early in the film, Trina McGee and Renly are the only two people of color who survive.
That's what they call racism in Hollywood.
Pretty much. Well, they're like, one survived or two survived. So, hey, we killed two, we let two survive. That's a 50-50. Hey, Vanessa Bell Calloway is not in any danger.
Yeah, but she's the one who ends up having to lose her boyfriend. What the fuck?
Exactly. And what's his name? Tell him, Frank wanted me to give this to you.
But the dog survives. Even though I know people like dogs, but that's the only other Hollywood part of this thing is the dog survived the whole shit.
Of course. The dog always survives. And that reminds me of those old racist signs. No dogs, no Irish, no blacks. It's like, but apparently now dogs are allowed because the black people, the black males didn't make it to the end of this movie. And oh man. Oh, and also for all you Dan Hedaya fans, this is Dan Hedaya with a full mustache.
Yep. That's a rarity back in those days.
Exactly. Even though I'm sorry, he's an accomplished actor, is always a good character actor. I will always remember him as Nick Tortelli from Cheers.
I would like Dan Hedaya to come onto this show because you went to grammar school with my uncle back in the 40s, and I think we should talk.
Okay. As always, there's another open invitation for anybody who wants to be interviewed. Or if anybody who was in this film wants to be interviewed, we'd love to talk to you. I don't know if Amy Brenneman's going to want to talk to you, but anybody who wants to, would love to interview you.
Especially Danielle Harris, if she could take a break from her podcast for one day.
Hey, Danielle Harris, we would love to have you talk about your rich filmography. Stallone, hey, If you want, if you're doing an interview for Sly, if you want to spread some more advertising, feel free. We will interview you, maybe about some different movies than were in your documentary.
Nighthawks.
Oh, jeez. And even if you want to talk about any of your projects you didn't get to make that you always wanted to, and we obviously we'd love to talk to you about Cobra and Beverly Hills Cop. That could have been.
And your unproduced Hunter script.
Oh, wow. Or your Edgar Allan Poe movie.
Yeah, we could talk about the picture you took at Bloomingdale's, because that's a very fascinating story. Dreams do come true at Bloomingdale's.
I'd be like, we could talk about your re-editing of Rocky IV constantly.
And is he still going to re-edit Rocky V? I'm very curious about that.
I want to know what's going to change, or what's going to be different. It's like there are going to be different motivations for characters.
If you go on YouTube, you can find all the deleted scenes.
Oh, okay. And do you ever talk to Tommy Morrison anymore? And
he's dead.
I guess not. Do you visit his grave like Adrian in one of the Rockets? Be like, times have changed since I last saw you. And, the world's a totally different place. They got new drugs that could have maybe saved you. But you lived a good life. And you will always be immortalized in Rocky V, except I'm re-editing. So, but you're still going to look good, kid. And well, that took a weird turn. Reality, folks. Reality. And well, that's it. Well, wait. Do you have anything else you'd like to say before we leave on Daylight?
I think Daylight, it's not a great film. It's not a perfect film, but it is entertaining. The effects still hold up. It's definitely, of Stallone's career filmography in the 90s, one of the better movies he did in that period. And I think it's worth a shot. I wouldn't let the reviews or box office deter anybody from seeing it. I think it's an entertaining movie that's a time waster on a weekend. I would say check it out. I recommend it.
I also obviously recommend. That's one of the reasons why I picked it. It's even a good background movie if you're just like doing something else and you want something on in the background to watch or look up once in a while. And also, rest in peace to Tommy Morrison. That was all in good humor,
Of course.
Nothing personal. So that ends this week's Unfinished Business. But as you know, we always have unfinished business out there to tackle, and especially when you're in the deep.
Just don't drown in the Midtown Tunnel.
Or hopefully you don't find yourself stuck in it with Sylvester Stallone trying to save you. Some of you might live, but if you're kind of dark, you're not probably going to make it. And especially if you have a Caribbean girlfriend. So with that, we bid you adieu. And